Hello guys, welcome back to another video. As always, I am so excited to have you guys here. Doing a little Sunday meal prep, hopefully pretty budget friendly as well. You guys are always asking for budgeting tips for meal prep. I would say I'm not the best at budgeting when it comes to groceries. Groceries and nutrition and food is something that I really value, so it's something that I'm willing to spend a little bit more money on. That being said, I do still try and be budget conscious. I always try and look for more economic choices. I always try and look at what is seasonal, what's on sale and stuff like that, and things that aren't gonna go bad really quickly. I also love to stock my freezer, buy stuff on sale if I can, but a huge budget tip that I have when it comes to food is not wasting what we buy. And this is a big reason why I don't tend to follow recipes very often. It's just because for years I followed recipes and I just found that I would buy all the stuff for the recipe and I would use some of it when I made the recipe, and then some of it I just wouldn't use, and then it would end up going to waste, and then I would throw it out, and that's not very budget friendly. So honestly, a huge budgeting tip that I have is just to learn to cook without recipes and learn to utilize what you already have and use up all the food that you have and minimize food waste. Before I go to the grocery store, I always like to do a little peruse through my pantry, through my fridge, see what I have, and then I can decide what I want to buy, because I'm always trying to structure my meals based on what I already have and then just fill in the gaps. And you guys know I always like to have a protein at every meal. Veggie, I try and aim for about 7 to 10 grams of fiber, so it's usually a veggie, a starchy carb. I love to add something like hummus or avocado for like a creamy and also fiber rich component to the dish. So I'm gonna take a peruse, see what's in my fridge, and then we'll come up with a grocery list and head out to the grocery store. Now my fridge is pretty full because my boyfriend usually comes over for the weekends and we'll make stuff over the weekend. So we're usually at the grocery store picking stuff up, but I have a good amount of eggs. I have these 2 chicken thighs. We made chicken on Friday. So we bought these on Friday. I really have to cook them up today, but they'll be good prep for the week. And then in terms of protein, I also have this tempeh. I'm actually gonna leave out because I'm gonna marinate that before I leave so that I can cook it up after I come back. It's also important to keep in mind that my boyfriend will normally come on Thursdays. So I'm really on my own for like Sunday evening through Thursday midday. So I just have to make enough food to kind of get me through there. And then we'll usually have meals together after that. I might have to pick up more protein throughout the week. Probably just hard boil eggs, cook up the chicken, cook up the tempeh, and then we'll be good for that. In terms of vegetables, I have some spring mix that I really have to use up. I'm gonna try and eat this in the next few days. And then I have some broccoli microgreens. Again, I'm gonna try and use those up in the next few days. I have like a decent amount of carrots, so I probably will use those mostly for vegetables. And then I also have a ton of avocados. You guys always ask me how my avocados are always ripe. I just leave them out on the counter until they go ripe, and then I put them in the fridge, and I find that they'll last usually like a week in the fridge, to be honest. I have a ton of bananas. Probably gonna make banana bread up throughout the week, but honestly, I have a half a loaf of banana bread in here too, so I won't cook that up today. I have a little bit of cottage cheese in there. Like I said, I'll probably have to buy more cottage cheese. I also have some cooked sweet potatoes in there. I'll probably buy some sweet potatoes when I'm at the store, just because again, I always like to have those on hand. And then of course, I've always got like my nut butters, mustard, mayo, like all of those kind of things. So I'm thinking about my meals for the week. For dinners this week, I'll probably do the tempeh spring rolls because I already have the tempeh, the spring mix, the carrots. I can make a peanut sauce with my peanut butter and stuff that I already have in the pantry. So probably do that for dinner. And you guys know I love that meal. It's super high in fiber and high in protein. So it's a great like spring summer staple. Oh my gosh, my fridge is just beeping so much. So I'll probably do that for dinner most nights. And then breakfast, I'll usually do hard boiled eggs with cottage cheese, avocado, and toast, which I keep all my sourdough bread in my freezer. So I'm good for breakfast. So then for lunch, I'll probably end up cooking up the chicken, having that on hand for my lunch, which just means that I need a starch and a vegetable prepped for lunch. So to be honest, what I will probably get at the grocery store is some more sweet potatoes. I think I'm also going to do rice because I have rice that I can cook up, and cook some chickpeas this morning. So I just soak my chickpeas overnight and then I just cook those with some kombu. It just has some enzymes that helps to break down the starches within the chickpeas. And then I'm letting them cool. So I'll probably make some hummus. And I think I'm going to pick up some beets at the grocery store and make a beet hummus, and then I'll pickle the rest of the beets just so they last a little bit longer in my fridge. I might also pick up some other greens, but honestly, I think I'm just gonna try and use up all the vegetables that I have on hand. So I wrote everything down in my notes app just for my grocery list. So I'm gonna pick up eggs, cottage cheese, beets. I'm gonna pick up some sort of fruit, probably whatever fruit is on sale, but lately strawberries have been on sale, so I'll probably pick up some of those. I need to pick up some more apple cider vinegar, a lemon for the hummus, and then some sweet potatoes. And that will be a very budget-friendly grocery haul for me. So I'm gonna head out to the grocery store. I think I'm also gonna walk around. I've been really loving just going out and walking around on Sundays and just having a little bit of a slower Sunday. But before I head out, I am going to marinate the tempeh just so I can marinate it for a few hours before I cook it up when I come back. So let's just do that. So I love tempeh as a protein source. It's actually really budget friendly. I find that tofu and tempeh, you can get a block of it for between $3 to $6 here. So it's a lot more budget friendly than some of the animal sources of protein. I specifically love tempeh because unlike tofu, it's going to be a lot higher in fiber. So when I'm looking at hitting my protein and fiber goals for a meal, including tempeh just really helps me hit those goals. I also do like to include organic soy products at least a few times a week. Again, we just know that isoflavones found in soy products do have a lot of benefits for female hormonal health. And I often get asked if plant-based sources of protein are just as good as animal-based protein, and it really depends. That's such a loaded question. But in terms of bioavailability, we do know that bioavailability of plant-based protein is lower. However, if someone is eating a mix of both animal and plant-based sources of protein, I don't tend to worry about it too much. If someone tells me that they're eating exclusively plant-based sources of protein, we may look at increasing their protein intake and making sure they're getting enough of all the different amino acids. Now, another question that I do get a lot is from women who are struggling to lose weight, eating a completely vegetarian diet, and then they start to eat more animal-based sources of protein, and they find that weight loss becomes easier. Now, there's probably a few different reasons for this, but one thing to remember about plant-based sources of protein is that it's very rare to find a plant-based source of protein that's just protein. For example, when you look at the macronutrient makeup of soy, you have a good amount of protein, but also a good amount of fat. Beans and legumes, there's a lot of carbohydrates. So I do find that sometimes if women are eating only vegetarian sources of protein and they make an effort to really increase their protein, sometimes they do end up just increasing their calories by quite a bit. So just something to be aware of. Again, you guys know I'm a huge fan of both plant and animal-based sources of protein. I think that plant-based sources of protein have a lot of health benefits. But again, if you're on a weight loss journey, just something to keep in mind. But with that being said, let's head out to the grocery store. Okay, so I spent $60, which was a little bit more than I wanted to spend, but I got some oil and vinegar and stuff like that I just had to restock in the pantry. Also $60 Canadian, so you can convert that to American. So I'm gonna unpack everything and then we will get started, but I'm just gonna show you guys everything that I got. So like I said, I did get some pantry staples. I grabbed some avocado oil. This is my favorite for more high temperature cooking. And then I also just got some more apple cider vinegar. I've been loving doing this before meals, just diluted it in a little bit of water. It's great for blood sugar control, great for digestive support, but I specifically bought it because I want to do some pickling today, so I got it for that. I got some pre-cooked beets. You can cook beets on its own, like my dad does them in the oven. I just don't tend to do that. This is somewhere where I'm like willing to pay for the shortcut. I hate cooking beets. I find it to be a really big mess, so I'm probably gonna use one of these in my beet hummus, and then I'm gonna just pickle the rest. I love beets. They're super high in betaine, which is great for liver and digestive support. They're super high in antioxidants and polyphenols. You can just see by looking at the color. And while I was picking these up, I was thinking about it because one of you guys asked on my last video, what's the most common reasons why I see people have issues with like acne, skin issues? There's a lot of different reasons, right? Like a lot of the times it is gut and liver. Sometimes it's high androgens, like in PCOS, blood sugar. A lot of the times it's a combination of everything. A lot of the times in clinic, I'm doing a lot of gut and liver work because our livers are just naturally overburdened. And then a lot of the times because we're not eating enough of the foods that actually help to support that. Like the betaine in beets is great for that. Cruciferous vegetables, because of the sulforaphanes and the indole-3 carbanols in those, can all help with supporting that natural detoxification, which is so important because our liver plays such a large role in metabolism of hormones and keeping that really nice hormone balance. You guys know I don't love the term hormonal balance, but that really good natural metabolism and detoxification of excess hormones. So making sure that we're eating enough food to support that. Like I said, the sulforaphanes, the IC3, and all those other micronutrients that are needed for phase 1 and phase 2 liver detox, like the B vitamins like vitamin C, taurine, glycine, choline, all of those, right? And that's why nutrient density is so important when it comes to your food. But let me know if you guys have specific questions about skin health, gut health, liver health, things like that, because that just gives me so much more to go off of. Sometimes I don't know exactly what to talk about. Speaking of nutrient support, I got some bell peppers. I've been really trying to have these more because they are such a great source of vitamin C. Again, important for liver, but also adrenal, overall health, immune system health. It's a potent antioxidant. I figured that while I had the oven on to roast the tempeh, I might as well roast up some peppers as well. And then, like I said, I did pick up some broccoli. I always like to have this in the freezer. It just comes in handy. You guys know I make roasted broccoli with this at least once a week. They did not have the eggs that I normally get, so I just got a small batch of another type. Strawberries were on sale, so I got another box of strawberries. I got some more pressed cottage cheese. I got a lemon for the hummus. And then you guys know I love Japanese sweet potatoes. If you can't find these, then you could always do the orange or the purple sweet potatoes, whatever you can find. That was my entire grocery haul. Like I said, I spent around $60 Canadian. I'm gonna put everything away and then get started on prep, and then we'll probably switch to a voiceover. So medium boiled eggs is something that I love having on hand. It just makes my breakfast come together really, really quick. You guys know basically the breakfast that I've been having on repeat is medium boiled eggs with some whole wheat sourdough toast topped with avocado, cottage cheese, and then berries. For a gluten-free option, I also love to do it with sweet potatoes instead of whole grain sourdough toast. It really takes me less than 5 minutes to put together in the mornings, and I always boil my eggs for 7 minutes. I find that that is the perfect amount of time to keep the yolks a little bit on the softer side and a little bit more jammy. And then I always like to pre-wash my strawberries. I just find I'm way more likely to reach for fresh fruit and vegetables in my fridge if it's already cleaned. So I just soak them in a mixture of filtered water and baking soda for about 5 to 10 minutes, and then I give them a good rinse, pat them dry, and then just put them back in their storage container. I wash the peppers the same way, and then I just chop them up and season them with avocado oil, garlic powder, and sea salt. I roast them in the oven at about 400 degrees for about 20 minutes. I just keep an eye on them and pull them out when they look done. I really like having some sort of roasted or steam or pre-cooked vegetable that's really easy to add to any meal. I really find that having my carbs, my proteins, and my veggies already prepped, then I can mix and match them throughout the week. So I always have things on hand, but I'm not having to eat the same meal over and over again. Okay, and then this beet hummus may have been my favorite part of this entire meal prep. I've really been trying to increase my intake of beans and legumes. We know that they just have so many different health benefits. They're super high in fiber. Half a cup of chickpeas has about 7 grams of fiber, which is incredible. We know that fiber is super important for supporting our gut health. We know that fiber and polyphenols are what help to feed that good gut bacteria. It's also really important for keeping us regular, which is going to be important for both digestive and hormonal health. I also love beans and legumes because that high fiber content can also help to support blood sugar regulation, healthy cholesterol levels, and cardiovascular health. This recipe is actually great for cardiovascular health because you have the fiber from the chickpeas, plus you have all the benefits from the beets, including natural nitrates, which can help to relax and dilate the blood vessels, certain types of antioxidants that can help to reduce oxidative stress and protect the endothelial lining. You have lots of folate, which can help to support methylation, plus you have the monounsaturated fatty acids and the polyphenols from the extra virgin olive oil. And there's actually some really good evidence for garlic supporting cardiovascular health as well. In fact, allicin, which is a component of garlic, is something that I use quite a bit in practice, not only because it's a great antimicrobial, but also because there's a lot of cardiovascular health benefits. There's immune system based benefits. It has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties. So I love when we can also get that through our food. And just to help the beets last a little bit longer in my fridge, I decided to pickle them. This is my pickling solution. You can really use it for any sort of vegetable you would like. You can also double or triple the recipe if you want to make more, but it's just super convenient. And like I said, it just helps vegetables last a little bit longer. I do always get asked if pickling versus fermented foods are the same, and no, it's not. When you ferment a vegetable, that tangy taste comes from the fermentation process, whereas with pickling, the tangy taste generally comes from the vinegar that you use to pickle the vegetables, and you're not going to get that same probiotic benefit. Now, with that being said, there's still health benefits to the pickled vegetables, plus you're getting some prebiotics as well, so something I love to have on hand. So like I said, I had some leftover chicken thighs. I always cook my chicken thighs the same way. I do them stovetop, and I just season them with salt, garlic powder, and parsley. I just keep the seasoning really simple so that I can use them for a bunch of different things throughout the week. So I don't eat a ton of rice, but I speak to so many patients where rice is just a huge staple in their diet, and I want to share one of my favorite ways to make rice. You guys know I love resistant starches. When you cook and cool a starch, it becomes a resistant starch. It slows digestion, making it more blood sugar friendly, plus it helps to feed the good gut bacteria. When I make rice, I love doing purple rice. All you need is white rice, and then I add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of black rice, and then just cook it how you would normally cook your white rice. Here I used water, but you could also use bone broth. I just didn't have any on hand. That would be a great option if you wanted to add a little bit more protein and micronutrients. Another option is to do half white rice and half quinoa. I love doing that because you still get the taste and texture of the white rice, but you get a little bit more fiber from the quinoa. You can also add in things like edamame or peas or other beans and legumes. You can really play around with it. That's why I love this base. It's so versatile and just something that's really easy to have on hand. And this is another sauce that you guys have seen me make on repeat. I just love this peanut sauce. I love using it for spring rolls in the summer, but you can also use it on stir fries. It is just really, really versatile. So that was the full meal prep. I would say it took me about an hour and a half. I definitely think you could get it done even faster if you weren't filming, but I also wanted to share a few meals from the week. So for breakfast, I've been having the same breakfast every morning, but I love just having some strawberries with some avocado, cottage cheese on some whole grain sourdough toast, and then having the hard boiled egg. Like I said, having the eggs already made just cuts down on dishes and time in the morning. So that's something that I've been loving. And then for a quick dinner after clinic, I just warmed up some of the leftover rice with some frozen peas just to add a little bit more color. I warmed up some of the roasted peppers, had that with some of the chicken, added some microgreens and the beet hummus on top. This was such a delicious dinner. And then the next day, I used more of the chicken to make a chicken sandwich. So I just started by slicing the chicken, cut up some avocado, and then I toasted 2 pieces of the sourdough bread, added the avocado to one side, I added some hummus, the chicken, broccoli, microgreens. I think I added a little bit of the red peppers as well. This was so good. And then the next day, I basically had the exact same meal, but in a wrap form. And then you guys have seen me make this so many times, but one of my favorite ways to use the tempeh and the peanut sauce is to make tempeh spring rolls. This is just such an easy way of getting in extra veggies, especially in the spring and summer. I also just love using the tempeh because it's super high in both protein and fiber, and this meal can come together in probably about 10 or 15 minutes if I have everything already prepped. And then on the days where I'm going into the clinic for the full day, I love just taking a big salad. This is also one of my favorite meals to make in the spring and summer. So I just started with a base of spring mix. Like I said, I had some sweet potatoes already cooked up in the fridge. For my protein, I chopped up some of the tempeh, but you could also use the chicken for this and it would be delicious. I also added some of this beet sauerkraut that I had, and then I added some hummus and avocado. And sometimes I'll also make just a simple olive oil and balsamic based dressing, but this is just a really easy lunch to take on the go. That does bring us to the end of the video. If you guys did make it to the end, make sure to leave a green heart in the comments down below. Also, let me know if there's anything else that you guys want to see more of on this channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because we would love to have you here every week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!